Welcome to Between the Reads, where we shine a spotlight on some of the most talented Black authors in the industry to discuss their works of fiction and the inspirations behind them. Each episode will dive into the rich and diverse world of literature, exploring everything from historical fiction to romance and speculative fiction to YA and beyond. Tune in as we celebrate the voices of Black authors and the power of storytelling. Are you ready, Boos and Bros? Then sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Jean Nicole is a National Black Book Festival Award winner and author of 3 psychological horror novels, Blackwater Tales: To the Moon and Back, Blackwater Tales: The Unwanted, and Blackwater Tales: The Secret Keepers. She has also garnered awards for her screenplay If I Die from multiple film festivals, including the Shivers International Film Festival, Canada. She is the owner of a novel writing software, Simply Stylus, and she teaches an online beginner writing course titled Simply Writing, an aspiring author's guide to developing a solid writing process and finally writing their novel. She writes because she loves words. She writes because she loves stories. She writes because she has a story to tell. Jean, welcome back to Between the Reads.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I'm excited.
I've been waiting
to
get back.
Girl. And the way you came back with this book, we can't even talk about what goes on at the end, but my goodness, so well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. So tell our readers what this book is all about.
So, this book is my first thriller. It's a domestic thriller, so all of my previous books have been horrors. But I wanted to try something a little different. I love horror, but I really like the thriller genre as well. So I wanted to give that a try. And so that's kind of what this book is. It's my first attempt at that. And it's about Dahlia Dixon, and she is, a young woman who is just kind of needing a change in her life, and that happens for her when she marries her boss. But, as always, it's not exactly as she expected it to turn out, She gets sucked into kind of this deep, dark world of who's who and whodunit when she moves to his lake house.
And I should tell people my allergies are driving me crazy. I'm off my game today. The name of the book is Lies on Bristol Lake. And it is so good. I just devoured. I have it on my Kindle. I need to get the hard copy because the cover is beautiful.
Thank you. I love the cover too. I was just like, yes, this is it.
Who designed it for you?
Her name, I believe, is Farah Lane.
Okay.
Faera Lane.
Okay. Yeah, she did a great job. Shout out to Farah.
Yeah, she does good work.
So I have to say first that what I love about this story is that the characters are Black, but only because of little descriptions of things, that they do in everyday life. It's not like in your face. And they're just characters that happen to be Black. These characters could be anyone. Why was it important to you to write the characters like this?
I mean, it's important because Black women, us, we make up a large group of these readers, and it's just, even though we're seeing it more now with more Black authors, it's still we are still very much so a fraction when it comes to who's authoring these books and who we see in these books. And so I just wanted all the Black women readers that I know to be able to see themselves in this book, not only physically, but again, just these characters could definitely be anybody, but I like to think, culturally, we have some things in there that are a little bit for us. We
like the twist out mention.
Yeah.
Things like that. Yeah.
We're not going to, go and figure out what every creek and crack is, but we do go down those roads a little bit sometimes. So, we can be in these genres too.
Right, and I love how, because Dahlia, she was a swimmer on her swim team in college. And these are women. They're litigators. They're from all different walks of life, and these are
Yep.
all women of means. And I love that we get to see black women in this space. Like you're debunking the myth that black people don't swim, that black people
Yep.
don't have money, that we don't, have some generational wealth going on there. You
Yep.
kind of debunk all of that and show black women in this wonderful light, and I really love that.
Yep.
Okay.
I was actually on the swim team in high school, so I kind of took some of my
Ah.
knowledge from that. And
Okay.
in my day job, still I work in legal, so I know black women litigators who are, out there getting it, and I took a lot of inspiration from them.
Okay. All right. So Dahlia, she does not trust anyone really. She's always looking for the lie and always looking for the cues that people are lying ever since her father disappeared from her life. And that, coupled with the trauma from something that happened to her in the book, she's very guarded unless she's drinking, and then we see the old Dahlia kind of peek through. But how does Dahlia's struggle with PTSD affect her relationships with all the other women and the characters in the story that she interacts with?
So I think the thing about Dahlia is she really wants those relationships. She kind of she is yearning for those relationships, but at the same time, she won't allow herself to have those relationships. And so when she goes to Bristol Lake, it's just kind of a turning point for her. She wants to try and let those guards down. And that's what she's doing. And maybe that's why she ends up, in this situation in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but because she has this history, she's always trying to figure out what's behind the mask. And that gets her
Mm-hmm.
into trouble too, right? Because it's like she
Right.
wants to like these people. She does like these people, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I can trust these people. So I'm going to dig a little bit deeper than I should. I'm going to,
Mm-hmm.
look a little bit closer than I should.
Mm-hmm.
And it may get me into trouble. But, ultimately, in my opinion, it does get her back to, ultimately, it gets her back to that place of being able to secure these close relationships and close friendships that she's searching for. But they come with trials and tribulations, and that's the case
Mm-hmm.
with any close relationship. So she's got to learn
Mm-hmm.
that in order to get to that happy place at the end.
Right. And that's the one thing that about her, because she's so paranoid. I found that her paranoia was skewing the way that I was looking at everybody in the book. It's like,
Right.
can I trust anything? Because Dahlia, she moves with Malcolm. We're going to talk about this, so I'm going to jump around a little bit. But
Okay.
she marries Malcolm, and that in itself was kind of weird because it was like she was his executive assistant, and she knew him in that way. She always knew what he needed, office wise, as being his executive assistant. And they had a thing going on. And, but it was after, uh, you know, Malcolm's wife died. And I still don't know if I believe that, but whatever. But she's like, I don't know, I just didn't. I was like, how can you marry him? This is not. It's not. No.
Yeah.
It was just
And I don't think she fully thought it through either. So I've
no.
been in
She
this
didn't.
situation too, where I've been an executive assistant for a long time. I know people who have been, and it's a very weird relationship. Not that
Hmm.
anything like that has ever happened to me. Of course, I'm just taking inspiration, but I
Sure,
do know people.
Jean.
No, no, for
Sure,
sure.
Jean.
But I literally know people who it has who it has happened to. They've ended up being in
Right.
relationships or even ended up getting married. It's a very weird dynamic. You know what I'm saying? And it's
Yeah.
like you think you know somebody, and then on a professional level, and then you get with them on a romantic level, and it's just kind of like a totally different person. And so I think that
Yeah.
she just thought this is it. This is like her dream, and it's going to change her life, and it did change her life. again,
Yeah.
not
Uh huh.
necessarily not
In a good
necessarily
way.
for the better. So,
Mm-mm.
I agree that she probably didn't think it all the way through, but I don't I think she was kind of in a desperate place where she didn't really
She
care if she
needed,
thought it all the way
yeah,
through.
she
She
needed
she
something to
she
shake up
needed
her
something.
life.
Yep,
Yeah,
she needed
yeah,
it.
yeah. But then she goes and she's, he takes, he's like, all of a sudden he says, I don't want you to work. And she's like, okay, fine. And he takes her to this beautiful lake house, and this is where she meets this enclave of women by snatching this this announcement off the bulletin board saying, it's a thriller readers group, Midnight's Edge, and these are women who read thrillers and want to write. And this is how she comes into this group of women.
Yep.
But like I said, like the way that you had her looking at everyone, I didn't trust anybody in this book. I was like, everybody guilty. They're all killers. What is she doing?
Everybody's
She's
guilty of something.
yeah. I mean, but just the way you wrote it, it's like her paranoia just really started to affect me, and I just couldn't trust anybody in the book
Yeah.
at all, at all.
Good.
So yeah, oh my gosh, when I tell y'all this book was like an Agatha Christie, like the board game Clue, like Miss
A
Scarlet
fave.
in the closet with the knife. It was that kind of thing. I kept trying to figure out who was doing what,
Yeah.
and I did not get it. When it pulled all together at the end, some of it I was like, oh, but then everything else I was like, wow, that my mind is blown. My mind is blown. Very well written. Very well written.
Good.
So now water plays a huge role in this story. In fact, it plays a huge role in all your stories.
Guess
It's
does.
life giving and it's life taking. But tell us how the setting of Bristol Lake contributes to the whole atmosphere of the novel and the events that unfold.
Yeah, so I love a good lakeside creepy story. I've never actually lived lakeside or anything like that, but so definitely kind of came from my imagination. But like what you said about the water, it's very very true. I'm not a huge like whenever I go on beach vacations, I'm not that girl that's jumping into the ocean and all of that good stuff. And people are always like, "Oh well, you're a swimmer," and I'm like, swimming in a natural body of water, that plays very little role in survival necessarily that does not matter. Mother nature is kind of a beast, and if it wants to take you over, it's going to take you over, win, lose, or swim. And so I kind of wanted that to play a role here, and especially her history with swimming. Previously, it made her feel very powerful. It made her feel very much in control. And then she learned that she wasn't in control, not even in the water, and that place wasn't even safe for her. And so I
Right.
wanted her to be able to kind of take that confidence back by moving to the lake, and kind of reconquering it for herself.
Yeah. So without giving anything away, we've talked a little bit about Dahlia, but tell us more about the character Dahlia.
So, again, I take inspiration from a lot of places. I try to take a little bit of inspiration from myself, and kind of how I was when I was younger, and I was in college, and you just feel very invincible, and you're just having a
Right.
great time. And then, as you get older, there's just a lot of things in life that can happen that can humble you pretty quickly. And and I think that's an experience we can all relate to. And so I wanted her to be very relatable in that nature. We were one person when we were younger, and then as we get older, things happen. They cause our personalities to shift. They cause our energies to change for different reasons. Sometimes good, sometimes not so good. And I wanted us to see that with her and to realize that, even when those things happen, we do have the power to take back our energy. And that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted her to do. I just wanted her to be very relatable. I mean, even with, and I did do research on PTSD. I don't have PTSD, but I do have anxiety. And I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of women relate to
Mm-hmm.
having,
Yeah.
anxiety and how that can affect
Mm-hmm.
our lives, and how we can not necessarily cure it. You can't cure it, but you
Mm-hmm.
can accept it, and you
Mm-hmm.
can control it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I wanted her to do kind of with her life and kind of with her
Mm-hmm.
environment with the help of other black women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I love that we see her fight this anxiety, and she's called Dark Dahlia. You know, it's this voice in her head that talks to her and is a result of the trauma that happened to her. So it's almost like her defense mechanism against things happening to her, you know, protecting herself from things happening to her. And you also see it in the way that she's always, when she's in the house, no matter what time of day it is, the doors have to be locked. She has to check it, and the alarm has to be on. You know, you just see it play out in subtle ways,
Yep.
but that are really powerful, that really show that she's got this fear from something that happened to her, and you don't give it away immediately. We know that there's someone named Thomas. We know that something happened, but we don't see, she doesn't open up about what happened until she's really kind of forced to, when things start to happen, when she's on the lake. So,
Yep. Yep, and
yes.
also, same thing with Dark Dahlia. She Dark Dahlia seems like a bad character, but she's
Hmm.
not.
No. Mm-mm.
And again, that's just kind of part of accepting the things in life that happen and kind of being able to put them in perspective and
Hmm.
use them to our benefit and use them to help us, grow and be a stronger person as opposed to keeping us kind of weak and defensive.
Right. Absolutely. Now let's talk about Malcolm Bell.
I love him.
I don't know about him. All I say, I'm not gonna say what happened at the end, but I'm gonna say that he deserved what he got,
I
because the
actually kind
stuff he was.
of like him.
What?
I know. I like a good little villain.
I mean, Emery, I'm cool with, but Malcolm, the wine and the little piece of the wine label was missing. You know, and I kept trying to piece things together because I'm like, every time he's always giving her this wine. And every time he gives her this wine, she's all foggy and wakes up the next morning all, you know, what he did was jacked up. What he did was jacked up.
I do not disagree with you.
And I honestly think that he's a less crazier version of someone else in the novel who we will not name
Yeah.
because we're not giving things away. So
Okay,
tell
we're
us
gonna try.
about Malcolm Bell and how you created him and who he is. Nah, see, you can't even
So
do it.
I, you know, yes, that's true. I think kind of in the beginning, when I write, kind of the story evolves, and I kind of go through, and then rough draft, and then what if. And so he
Hmm.
wasn't necessarily a villain in the beginning,
Hmm.
but then I was just kind of like, this kind of works. This kind of moves the story along, and so maybe I
Hmm.
liked him because that's not necessarily who he was in the beginning.
Okay.
But I kind of like him just because he's not necessarily a good guy, but he just kind of gets what he wants. He's gonna go after
Hmm.
what he wants. He's that guy that gets what he wants in life. He's gonna go after it, and
Hmm.
he really doesn't care, what else happens on the side.
Hmm. Yeah, he's the one that has to win no matter what.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. And I really liked too kind of the dynamic between him and his brother because they do have a lot of things in common,
Hmm.
but they also have a lot of things that they are, complete opposites on.
Hmm.
Um, so I wanted that to kind of play in as well.
Yeah, I think they're kind of like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde to me. You know,
Mhm.
Malcolm is the dark side, and Emery is, you know, the lighter side. He's like you said, they have. You know, Emery's kind of a sort of a good guy.
Mhm.
Um, in his own way. He's still on that competitive edge as well, but he does have a boundary that when he gets to it, he stops.
Mhm.
Whereas Malcolm is like, nope, no boundaries. I'm
Yep.
going to get what I want. I don't care who I have to ruin in the process,
Yep.
you know, and he pays for that.
He
And I'm glad
does.
he did. I'm glad he did. because I do not like him. I do not like him at all. At all.
I understand. I understand. He's fun though. He's kind of fun. No, not so much. Okay.
Yeah, okay. I mean, it's fun to read, to just see because he was so unpredictable. One minute he was fine, but then something would happen and he would just blow up. And then he would come back to her and he made me sick because he would blow up at her and then put his arm around her waist and kiss her neck and make her forget.
He was definitely abusive.
Yeah, I'm like
emotionally,
nah,
yeah,
mm-hmm.
in every way, and that's another dynamic that bosses, assistants have as well that kind of float over into this relationship, and she was kind of used to that in a way.
Yeah, but he just would, and his quirks, like having to have everything so neat, and and then things like when her car went in the ditch, and he's like not even concerned. He doesn't even ask her one time, like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah,
he's like, "Where's the car? I don't need any bad publicity right now. I'll handle it."
Right.
This is your wife, and she tells you that somebody ran her off the road, and you just like, "Where's the car?"
He's analytical. It's all a means to an end.
Yeah, which is why I don't like him. She was a means to an end for him, and that was foul what he did. That was really, really foul. That was really, really foul.
I've seen worse on ID channel.
So
I know people are capable.
That's why I don't watch that stuff, because I'm just like,
yeah, they raw for real.
Yeah.
They be doing some crazy stuff.
Yeah, I can't watch that kind of stuff. You talk about anxiety. I have anxiety as part of this whole menopause experience that I'm having. And the anxiety is like creeping up there, and I'm just like, whoop, nope, there's certain things I just can't take in, because it's like, wow, people are just really ruthless.
Yeah,
and
they are.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. So now I want to talk about Dahlia's mom for a second, and her feelings about Dahlia seeing a therapist. So how does her reaction to Dahlia seeing a therapist speak on the way that victims of trauma, both in terms of mental health and physical safety, are viewed and treated by the different generations in Black culture? Because you have Dahlia, who's okay with it. She's seeing her therapist. I mean, she has some hesitation sometimes, but she knows that she needs it. Whereas her mother does not. She's accepted it, but she doesn't necessarily approve. So just let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I think we've come a long way for sure, in kind of understanding the place that therapy should have in our life. And like you said, her mother accepts it, and so it's not like she's raging against it. But her mother loves her very much. She loves her mother very much, but they still kind of have a little bit of a tense dynamic sometimes. And I think that comes from a lot of the ways that Dahlia is different from her. If you notice, her mother is still single. Her mother is not remarried after, everything that happened. And I think that, too, it was kind of a shadow in their relationship where Dahlia became more unconventional. And even in college and what happened to her, I think it's not just the therapy, but I think her mom just kind of wants her to get over all of it.
Yeah,
you know
she
what I'm
tells
saying?
her
It's just kind of like,
move on.
it's done.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to relive this or go through this again. And I think she kind of drags her mother along. And that's kind of why she doesn't, not that she doesn't want her around, but she needs space to kind of work through these things on her own. And allow her mother to kind of come to understand her perspective and what she needs to do. And in the end, I think that her mother is kind of more understanding of the fact that it's her life. And she and her mother has her own life, but that doesn't mean that they can't have this great relationship together and be together.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And, that, like I said, it was just, at one point her mother was like, just stop talking about it and move on. And Dahlia kind of comments, she's like, I can't just move on. This thing happened and it was terrible, and and I think my little reader's mind thinks that her mother wants her to move on for more than one reason,
Right.
because I think that she doesn't want to face this aspect of who
Yes.
her daughter is,
I agree.
as well as the fact that she went through this trauma. It's just, a mother doesn't want to see her child go through any kind of pain.
Right.
Yeah.
And they go hand in hand because Dahlia is working through that part as well. Like kind of, well, how did I feel? You know what I'm saying? And so it's kind of it has a couple of moving parts that she's trying to work through and mom is trying to move on from.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So, share with us how the novel explores the idea of the past haunting the present, both in terms of all of the characters' personal histories and the history of Bristol Lake itself.
So, the dynamic of this whole group of women is a little bit all over the place. It really is kind of like a sister relationship, right? Because they all love each other, but a lot of the times they don't like each other. And their kind of intertwined, twisted histories overlap and kind of create this shadow on Dahlia's interest, and Dahlia is just kind of like, what the heck is going on
Right.
with these women? But the fact remains that they stick together. They stick together, and they work through their issues. They may not always work through them in a timely manner, and they may stick around for a while and kind of shift the dynamics of the group, but eventually they move to the other side. And same thing with Bristol Lake. All of these things happen, but this isn't a horror book, right? There's
Right.
nothing paranormal or sinister going on with Bristol Lake, right? It's just a lake, and the history is the people. What happens is all about the people and what they have going on and their ambitions, their vices, and how it affects just kind of like the total atmosphere, the setting of where they are. It's all about the people. This isn't Blackwater Tales, right? There's nothing paranormal
Right.
going on. This is all happening in real life.
Yeah.
So it's all about the people. That's it. It's them. They're
Yeah.
the problem.
Yep, they are, and I love it. And when I was looking at it, like for the readers out there, Bristol Lake is this beautiful neighborhood where they're called the Bend women, because there's this bend in the road that's really treacherous, and if you do not live there, and even if you do live there, they always talk about how people drive slowly on that part of the road because it's really twisty and turny, and there's not a whole lot of streetlights, and the driveways are really long, but they open up into these beautiful yards with these beautiful homes.
Yep.
And from what I'm understanding, because all these characters black, this is really a black community,
Yeah.
and I love that because it's a well-to-do black community. It reminds me of here in Maryland. There's an all-black community called Highland Beach. And
Okay.
Frederick Douglass actually there's a house there that's a museum. It was a house that his son had built for him so that he could actually look across. It sits right on the Chesapeake Bay so that he can look right across to the land where he was enslaved. It's really cool.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, the houses there aren't as big, but it reminds me of that kind of community where you have these black people, and then you have, is it Rena, that, her family lost the house when her grandmother died, and she wants to get the house back. So there's some struggle with the land there and everything. It's just like this whole underlying story on top of, that's under the story of the things that are going on the lake.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Like that. Like that. So many things about this novel that I just love. I do.
I'm glad. I'm so glad you noticed the little stuff like that.
Oh, I noticed so much. I mean, I could sit here and talk to you all day about this book. It's just there's
It's
so
fun.
many aspects to it. It is. It really is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot more
So-
fun than horror, even though I love horror, but It's fun. It's more
Listen, but
fun.
this was kind of. I mean, yes, it's a thriller, but it's a little horror too, because those
Right.
scenes with the dreams and the water.
Right.
That's some
It
horror
kind of give
there.
yeah, it definitely gives that. It gives that.
Mhm.
But
Mhm. Mhm.
only difference is for my books, it
Right.
nothing freaky going on.
Yeah, nothing freaky going on, but still, if you want something to like get your heart racing,
Oh yeah, for sure.
yeah, this is that book. This is that book, especially when you get to the end and everything starts to unravel and you
Yeah.
start to figure out what's going on. It's like, whoo, child, them last 4 chapters. I am a
What
slow
is
reader,
happening?
and those last four
Me too.
chapters, I went through them last 4 chapters in like 10 minutes. Like, what? What is going on?
Yep.
Yeah. So let's talk about privilege and its impact on the characters and the events that unfold. Because these are all women of means. These are not women who are struggling. In fact, the only one who really knows anything about struggle that we see is Dahlia, because she doesn't come from that type of background. But these women are all women of means. So let's talk about that.
So yeah, Dahlia. And it's not like Dahlia grew up, in poverty necessarily or
No.
something like this. But this is definitely a whole new level for her. Um,
Mm-hmm.
this is a whole new set of issues
Mm-hmm.
for her. This is definitely not. This is definitely first world problems,
Mm-hmm.
if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she gets on the lake and kind of sees, what everybody is, it's drama, right? It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily drama, there is literal murders happening, but it's,
Mm-hmm.
my high profile husband, maybe cheating
Mm-hmm.
on me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get my $1 million house back.
Right.
My rich husband passed away. And so it's definitely different for her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of the reason, not necessarily why she takes issue with any of the ladies, but I think it's a little bit difficult for her to connect
Mm-hmm.
um, with them at first. And it's one of the reasons, too, why she connects with Emery, because Emery is, even though he's a man of means,
Mm-hmm.
he has more of a blue collar personality.
Right.
And so
Right.
that's why she kind of connected with him. She's in Malcolm's world as his assistant. It's like she's in their world, but she's not in their world. And that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of why she's dissecting everything that's happening around her. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but eventually, she does become a part of this world of
Mm-hmm.
privilege, but she just kind of brings a little bit more earthiness, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like, to the friend group once she is a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
She just brings she brings a different perspective on everything. I think she
Mm-hmm.
causes them, all to look at each other a little bit differently. She just brings a different perspective. And
Mm-hmm.
even though eventually she fits in, she's different and she's okay with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just like the way that Dovey kind of dragged her into the world. Dovey was like, "Oh, you gonna come be part of this group?"
Yep.
And oh, I'm coming over, by the way. And she just shows up at the first time we see her. She just shows up.
Oh,
She just
that's
comes
great.
in with coffee and pastries, and it's like, "What's up?"
She's the
You know,
grand dame of the band.
she is. She Dovey don't care. She just walks in. She's like, "How you doing? What's up? Where you going? Let's meet
Mm-hmm.
later." She just pulls her into this world, and it's really kind of, to me, it's because that's kind of how, Dahlia just kind of starts to open up, because she has this woman who's
Yep.
just refuses to let
In
up,
her
and it's just
face.
like, yeah, in her face, and like, how are you, what are you, what are you doing, and really just trying to talk to her, and that's what also makes Dahlia realize that this is what she missed in her life,
Mm-hmm.
that human connection with other females, that
Yeah.
sisterhood. Yeah. So let's see, where am I at here? All right. So, other than Dahlia, we don't really see or hear from the women's husbands a whole lot in this book. I like it all, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us why you chose not to have them be present in the novel.
They weren't important. No, I'm just kidding. um, no, but seriously, I wanted the focus to be on the women, and that's kind of part of this like privilege and this leisure, like the the women work somewhat, and they have jobs, but they're okay with kind of being the main character and being these ladies of leisure. Like they don't have to put in the work to be important. And I really wanted the focus to be on them, and I wanted the focus to be on Malcolm and kind of how he was so directly at ends with everybody in the story. And I didn't want any of the focus to be off of the ladies or off of Malcolm. So, we didn't really need them that much.
Because
We know their story.
they're mentioned, but it's like, okay, yeah, we got husbands, so what? But Malcolm.
Yeah, because it's almost kind of like, I don't want to say Real Housewives, but it's just
Right.
kind of like it's their story. It's
Right.
their story.
Right. And then the girl, that scene where Malcolm was like, she's a whore, and she's a whore, and she's a whore. Like,
You know how they act sometimes. When you get
Like-
friends, he just
bruh.
Yeah.
You got some. I mean, I told you I don't like him. He moved on too quick after Naomi. And, just the explosions, the random explosions, like you never know what's going to make this brother just get set off,
Yeah.
and then the things that he did to Dahlia.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm glad that he got what he got in the end.
Yeah, and like in these kind of neighborhoods too, like everybody kind of minds their business to an extent, but everybody knows what's going on with everybody got an opinion about everybody else and what they're doing and how they're doing it. And he's the same. He tries to stay out of it, I think, for the most part, but he's definitely got his opinions on everybody.
Including the little tasty Ahmad.
I had young Usher in my head when I was writing him.
Girl. When he was trying to teach, Dahlia, taking her back in the water, trying to get her used to it, and he's rubbing her back and stuff. I was like, oh, okay. What you doing?
Yeah, we had to have a little something.
Little pool boy
Yeah.
on the
Little
lake.
lake boy action.
Little lake boy action. My man was getting around too.
Yes.
Like, all right, Ahmad. Okay.
Gotta keep the ladies busy.
And that he did. That he did. Now, the game they played, and forgive me because I cannot remember the name of it, with the wolves.
Werewolves.
Werewolves. Is this a real game, or is this something you made up?
No. This is a real game.
What?
Yes. And it's so funny because during the pandemic, my family did virtual game nights. Like every
Okay.
Wednesday. And so every Wednesday somebody would have to plan a game, and we did family Jeopardy. We did all kind of stuff. And so I had to plan a meeting that was like in October. And I was like, we need to do something spooky. So I started searching the internet, and I found this game. And you usually play it how they played it at the very end, with everybody
Okay.
in the
the
same room. And you know what I'm saying? You could kind of play off of one another. We did it virtually, and I was sending texts kind of the same way. So yeah, that's where that idea kind of came from. Pretty much, everything comes from a little bit of real life inspiration.
That game was something.
Bizarre.
And the way the text kept coming through right when she's like getting run off the road and stuff, I'm like, wait a minute, is this a killer or is this the game? It's like these texts kept coming through at the most inappropriate moments. I'm like, damn it.
Yes.
freaky. It was freaky. But then at the end, when she brought everybody in the room, girl,
Yep.
okay. Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit different when you're kind of in person. And it's a
Mm-hmm.
it's a fun game when you really like, even like when I was playing it with my family and you're trying to figure out who's lying, and some people are hyping other people up, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you'd be like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely makes you pause at some folk.
Yeah, like, you just okay with it? Because this is where Dahlia just really took people apart because she was learning everybody's tales. And she was
Mhm.
like, oh, okay. Now I know when you lying. Because you taking them 2 sips of that alcohol. All right, and you licking your lips. I know you lying. You know, she just picks everybody apart with that game. That game was a mess. That game was a mess.
Yes, I agree.
So now, how does Dahlia's investigation into the deaths at Bristol Lake really force her to confront her own fears and anxieties?
Well, I think that she she does become, genuinely paranoid that something could actually happen to her or happen to the other ladies. And
Mhm.
I think that she probably would have come to that conclusion a
Mhm.
lot sooner if she
Mhm.
did not have her aversion to anxiety trying to ward her off of it, right? Because it's
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
she's seeing all of these things are happening, but she's like, no, 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 I'm tripping.
Mhm.
I'm tripping.
Mhm.
You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Because she questions herself all the time about whether or not her fears are actually valid.
Mhm.
And so I think that the murders, the things that happened on Bristol Lake, actually in the end lead her to trust herself a little bit more, lead her to
Mhm.
trust Dark Dahlia a little bit more,
Mhm.
because they really do in the end draw a line between what's valid and what's paranoia.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of her fears, even the ones that don't have to do with the women on the lake, are valid. She ends up finding are actually
Mhm.
valid.
Yeah.
And she's not as crazy as she thought she was.
Mhm.
And it's
Yeah.
it's okay to listen to that, and to understand, fear is a gift, right? That's what they say.
Mhm.
Fear is a gift,
Mhm.
and to learn when to take it as a gift.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and I like the way that you can see the way she's kind of dismissed by Malcolm because he knows her, but he doesn't know her. He just
Mhm.
has this little snippet of her history, and he knows that she talks to a therapist,
Mhm.
but he doesn't really full on understand what's going on there. And so he's always just like, you're safe here. Can you just
Mhm.
stop turning the alarm on,
Mhm.
until we're ready to go to bed? And when she thinks she sees someone out there, she really does see someone out there,
Mhm.
but he's just like, there's nobody out there, you're imagining things, and he's
Mhm.
just trying to like brush her off. And so he makes her doubt herself, which is a form of abuse when
Mhm.
you don't take the concerns of your partner seriously. He's just
Yeah.
like, there's nobody out there, you're crazy, stop it. But there really was someone out there
Yep.
you know so it just kind of shows that the treatment of people who have been through a trauma, and then people kind of want to discredit the things that they feel because they think, oh, that's just your trauma talking.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So the the themes of isolation and loneliness are kind of all throughout the story because really
Mhm.
all these women are kind of isolated in their own way. What does that say to the need for human connection in the story?
Um, I think that when she connects with these other women,
Mm-hmm.
this is ultimately through this whole trial and tribulation what makes her feel whole again, and what
Mm-hmm.
makes her stop doubting herself. When she was alone previously, she
Mhm.
was definitely in this dark place
Mhm.
of desperation, because it was just, her, herself, Dark Dahlia, and going round and round in circles. And
Mhm.
even at the lake, she is isolated there, and she has space to kind of reconnect and figure herself
Mhm.
out. But she's also gifted with these new friendships
Mhm.
that just kind of give her perspective and allow her to look at things in different ways and really have people to kind of validate her.
Mhm.
And I think that she needed that to get out of that dark place that she was in, where she thought
Mhm.
she was safe. Right? She thought she was
Right.
safe in that dark place,
Mhm.
but she wasn't. And those connections are really what brings her out, and actually brings her to a safe place.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. It's because, like we said earlier, Dovey kind of pulls her out of this world. She's kind of staying in the lake house, and she says that the peace is like the quiet is peaceful, but it's also unnerving. But she doesn't really want to go out to the lake because she's scared of the water from what happened to her, and she doesn't really want to trust anybody, which is, like I said, not only the trauma from what happened to her, but also she didn't believe anybody after her dad walked out on her. She's just like, it's like she's always waiting for people to leave. So she,
Right.
rather than do that, she just doesn't even give them an opportunity to get close. You know.
Yeah. And yeah, like you said, it's kind of like she's always just waiting for the other shoe to drop. And even though
Mhm.
she kind of goes through this big brouhaha with all of these people, I think in the end, she could have taken the perspective, kind of left the perspective the same, that I can't trust anybody, everybody
Mhm.
lets me down.
Mhm.
But because of these friendships, she decided to go another way, and not, and just as easily as she could have used this to reinforce what she was previously thinking, she didn't,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
she took the
Mhm.
bright side of it.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I think
And
that speaks
so,
to her growth, definitely.
yeah, you really do see her evolve from the beginning of the book, where she's kind of living this small life where it's just her and her mother and Malcolm, to the whole thing just opening up at the end, and her embracing the friendships, and even, changing her mother's situation. I'm not going to give too much away, but changing her mother's situation, and you see
Yeah.
this whole thing. You really see her evolve, and her
Yeah.
life really opens up and expands, and she really learns to lean on these people around her. And I thought that that was really beautiful, because it shows her not being a victim anymore
Yep.
to her trauma.
Yep.
Yeah. So I know you're an indie author. So tell us why you chose to be an indie author.
So that's a good question. I know we've talked about this before, but I feel like the answer is kind of ever evolving. It's always changing,
Mhm.
depending on,
Mhm.
sometimes you write a new book and you're like, should I query this book? Oh, I don't know.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's just freedom for me, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't get
Mhm.
me, there is nothing wrong with the traditional publishing route. And if I could make $5 million a year writing books, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I wouldn't necessarily
You
jump
say
at the
sign me up.
opportunity. Right. But it's just like, there's just so many hoops to jump through. And I just don't be in the mood, I was just not in the mood for that. Like,
Right.
I thought about querying this book, and I was just like, no, I write for the enjoyment.
Mhm.
And that part of it, it just becomes such a job,
Mhm.
and I just don't know if it's worth it to me.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
I don't know if it's worth it.
Yeah, and plus, I mean, if you tried it, you might still be in the querying process right now. And then if you did get somebody to pick it up, it could be 2 more years before you see your book come out. It's like, who has that kind of time to
Uh-huh.
sit around and wait for? And then you're not even getting the full share of your profits, but they're still expecting you to do all the work to promote the book. But they're going to take some of the money. Like, nah, I'm going to do all that. I'm going to publish it myself. And
Exactly.
honestly, I don't think a publisher would have allowed you to have these black women being ladies of
There's
leisure
that.
in a black community and all of that. They would have been like, they're not black enough, or this isn't believable, all those yada
Yep.
yada yada.
Yep. I completely agree.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So well, actually, before I even ask that, the ending. I tell y'all, the last 4 chapters, I know I said this, like the last 4 or 5 chapters, I was just like, and the twist at the end that I did not see coming. That was tricky.
Yes.
That
It
was
was
tricky.
tricky. Even my editor was like, "Wait a minute. Did you wait?"
Yeah,
I'm like, "Yes." She's like,
yeah.
"Okay, the clues were there. The clues were there. I just
They were there, but it's not something that you pay attention to
yeah.
unless you really just like honing in on every little detail. So did you know that this is going to happen, or was this when you wrote it, it just flew into place?
Yep, it just kind of came into place. I want to say it was one way when I first wrote it, and then I was like, what if, we did this? And so we did that, and then when I went back through, it really wasn't that difficult to kind of, shroud it in mystery. Yeah, it was just kind of one of those what if things. I just go through and what if it and see what we can make stick.
And you made it stick.
Why
I'm
not?
not I'm not even gonna say who it is. I'm not naming no names. I'm just saying, y'all, get the book, and I'm saying pay attention to everything. That's all I'm saying.
Yep. Pay attention to
So,
everything.
everything. I mean everything. Pay attention to everything. Because I'm still trying to figure out with Ahmad how he ended up where he ended up.
Uh-huh.
And she's just like, yeah. I'm still trying. I mean, I get it, but I don't get it. I'm like, wow.
We can talk about that after.
After I was gonna say
Yeah,
you
I don't want to
can't.
I don't want to I don't want to tell the people, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's crazy. All right, so tell readers where they can find your books, because you not only have Lies on Bristol Lake, you have your trilogy, the Blackwater Tales trilogy. So tell us where we can find your books.
So, the Blackwater Tales trilogy, it's not really a trilogy, it's just 3 books of the same series. They are
Right.
all standalone, so you don't have to start with one and read two and read three. You can read them in any order, and they will make perfect sense to you. The first one is available pretty much anywhere, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, wherever. And the other two, and then this one are Amazon exclusive right now.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm going to keep this book Amazon exclusive. It's going to be Amazon exclusive for a few months.
Okay.
And I don't know. That may go wider. Also, you can find the last 2 books, To the Moon and Back, and The Unwanted on Audible. This book
Okay.
will soon be on Audible
Okay.
as well as The Secret Keepers.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
And where can we find you on the internet and social media?
So on Instagram, my handle is Jean Nicole at Jean Nicole 19, and on TikTok, I want to say it's at Jean Nicole R 19.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, those are where I spend the majority of my time.
Okay. And do you have a website?
I do, but y'all don't really want to go look at it. It's under construction.
Okay. We'll
But
leave
it's
that
Jean
alone.
Nicole Rivers.com.
Okay.
It'll be updated soon.
Okay. All right. Well, we have come to the end of our show, and I want to thank you so much for sharing your time and your talents with us with this
Thank
wonderful book.
you.
You're
Thank you. I
welcome.
appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you for coming back. You're welcome back anytime. You know that.
Gotta write another book first.
Yeah,
No.
well, I'm just saying, I still have 2 other books in your series, in the Blackwater series to read, so I can technically bring you back for Blacktober Reads with one of those.
Okay, well, I'll be here.
I'm just saying, be ready, sis, be ready.
I'm ready.
And Booze and Bros, you know how I do at the end of every show. I leave you with a quote, and today it comes from the late, great Nina Simone. I can't talk today, y'all. And she said, "You've got to learn to leave the table when love's no longer being served." Until next time, y'all, you know what to do. Grab a book and read, and I'm out. Thank you for lending me your ear today. If you've enjoyed this independent podcast, you can help me continue to shine the light on Black authors and their stories by becoming a patron at patreon.com/betweenthereads, or by giving a one-time gift at www.ko-fi.com/betweenthereadspodcast. That's ko-fi.com/betweenthereadspodcast. Tune in next time for another great episode.